Have you ever stumbled upon a game that, by just looking at its cover, brought you to a surprise laughter? An amusing little oddity or simple mistake that just puzzles your mind? This little joy can sometimes skew you in the direction of acquiring such game. Even if the actual game itself isn't up to snuff, having such a thing on your shelf can bring you a small delight. With that sentiment in mind, allow me to share a few of these curiosities that found themselves in my collection. Firstly, it is important to clarify the nature of the oddities I'll be highlighting in this video. Most are likely unintentional mistakes. True, there are examples of intentional strangeness found in some covers, capable of bringing you the same delight. However, my focus here lies on the ones where something seems to have gone wrong in the creation of the cover, especially concerning the text found on said cover boxes. To begin, let's take a look at the most straightforward one. Our first example brings us to a supposed reimagining of a classic Japanese tale, The Seven Samurai. A tale brought to a futuristic setting as a third-person action game released exclusively on the PlayStation 2. This is one of those cases where the game leaves something to be desired. Visually, it looks decently stylish, and it has some nice voice acting. However, the combat seems off. The best way I can describe it loosely would be by saying it feels like an offshoot of the combat style that the Arkham games would later introduce, but with a very loose auto-lock and no manual lock. The progression through the levels is very similar to beat-em-ups, which might become somewhat repetitive to some. The game in question is 7 Samurai 20XX. Or is it? Because according to the spine, that would be 7 Samurai 200XX. Obviously, the name on the spine is a simple typo, since the logo on the cover is exactly the same that can be found on the title screen, manual, CD. The description of the back cover also corroborates the accurate spelling. However, the misprint seems to grace every spine of the PAL versions of the game. Adding another layer to the amusement, the Portuguese version here introduces another extra quirk. See, in Portugal, a game must bear an IGAC seal, for authenticity and distribution. Presently, the seal is a small, unique icon on the cover box. However, until very recently, its format was a relic of a bygone era, an era of audio cassettes and VHSs that, for easy identification, would contain the title of the piece of media on the seal. With this, we can take a closer look at the one in the 7 Samurai game, and yep, according to the ICAC, the game that was distributed in Portugal was 7 Samurai 200XX. Moving on from whatever implication that fumble might have, to a more subtle mistake. This next game is from one of my favorite genres, and it is a rhythm game, by the name of Dance Europe, or Dance UK as it was originally called in its home country. NANI? It was released for the PlayStation 1, 2, and later for the original Xbox. The version you can see here is, obviously, the PlayStation 2 version, which was released throughout the rest of Europe with the Dance Europe moniker. If I'm not mistaken, this game is only found in the PAL region. Not saying that other regions are missing much, since it's no more than a decent Dance Dance Revolution style game. Though, I'll be honest, I might not be the best person to evaluate this type of game, since I kinda suck at dance pad games. But let's turn our attention towards the cover, specifically the back of it. Now, I will say this, the error here will probably slide by most people, but it might invoke certain reactions from two specific groups. My two good friends and our neighbors in Spain probably already spotted it, and threw a collective sigh, because unless our country switched language in the early 2000s, I would say they mistakenly swapped our flags in the Dance Europe version for both PlayStations. Can confirm if it's the same case for an Xbox version, since I can't seem to find a copy of the Dance Europe version to verify it, besides copies of the original Dance UK, which obviously has its cover entirely in English. Still, it's pretty funny because by now, both Portuguese and Brazilians are unfortunately somewhat accustomed to this type of fail with their language flags, since they both use a type of Portuguese language. But Spanish and Portuguese? That's just absurd. Well, at least they got it right in the manual. With this next game, I want to make sure everyone is able to appreciate the fact that this was found to be acceptable for an official release on the PlayStation 2 in 2001. Maken Shao Demon Sword. Developed by Atlus, Maken Shao is a port of the game Maken X, released the previous year for the Dreamcast, that oddly changes the player perspective with its platform transition from first-person action to third-person. Now, when I question its release, it isn't due to the game itself, since it offers a somewhat stiff combat but that feels deliberate and oddly rhythmic, especially coupled with some variety in the form of unlockable characters with different styles as one progresses through the story. It's a decent experience, even if it really looks like a late Dreamcast game, failing to take advantage from being on the PlayStation 2 alongside the weak showing in terms of sound quality, especially during cutscenes.
魔剣開発は極秘じゃないのか。
どうして K が
彼女は全てを見ておく必要がある。だから所長は K を呼んだのです。
Now, as with the other examples in this video, the issue is found on the cover of the game itself. I believe it's no secret when I say that Atlus didn't used to have a great presence in Europe, leaving the publishing of its games in the hands of other publishers, in this case, Midas Interactive Entertainment. The version that I'm currently holding is the one Midas Interactive Entertainment released in Portugal. Here is the part that I'll do my best to show to everyone that doesn't speak Portuguese what a brilliant disaster this text found on the back of the cover really is. Let's start with something easy to understand: the number of errors. An amazing number of around 29 errors in what is a somewhat small-sized text. Okay, so stay with me as I try to translate to English what this text sounds like to someone that understands Portuguese.
Maken, and a form of life invented by man, capable of healing mental diseases. Incarnate this fascinating being along an adventure that will take you to the four corners of the world to affront a terrorist organization and a diabolic Chinese god. To take your mission to good, you should take the control of several tens of characters, to have access to their memories and to their special attacks, which will arrow you to up-to-date and sinister conspiracy trying to modify forever the destiny of humanity. 19 levels spread to the four corners of the globe from the Forbidden City to Athens. Gnome rouse characters to control thanks to your power of mental fusion, discover special maneuvers that already started. A complex game with various surprises, secret characters, modes to discover, various possible ends. Various hidden modes alloy to you to face the game chefs in duel or simply reach unprecedented representations of the characters. Manual exclusively in English.
I hope this passes the idea across of how absurdly written this text is, and how baffling it is that something like this was given an A-OK. Thankfully, I can confirm that other subsequent game covers that I've seen published by Midas Interactive did not suffer the same fate, and do have acceptable translations. Anyways, if for whatever reason you want to take a look at the cover, I have scanned it and the link to it will be in the description. The covers, cover images, and other key visual promotional elements of a game are a lot of times a person's first contact to said game, hence why many developers put much thought into its compositions. However, like anything that has any type of quality control, sometimes things just slip through cracks. Big cracks in some cases, and occasionally those small slip-ups actually make those games more endearing. This brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed discovering the small curiosities I displayed here. Hopefully I made you think about collecting certain games in different ways, or if not, and you already collect cases like this, please share them in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video and see ya on the next one.